What's going on, you guys? Clint here. Welcome back to the channel, Code Commerce. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this enterprise level dashboard in Next.js styled with Tailwind CSS. Let's have a look at what we're building. So this is the main page. This is the dashboard of the dashboard. Okay. So top cards component here, we're using Chart.js for this bar chart component. Then we have a recent orders tab off to the right. Then we do have a customers route and then also an orders route as well. Okay. And everything is mobile responsive. You guys, you notice as I shrink this thing down, everything displays just beautifully. Okay. So if you want to see how I built this from start to finish, Next.js, Tailwind CSS, let's go. Okay. So here we are in VS Code. Now I'm already in the working directory, the folder I want to be in. Next dash. Okay. So first what we need to do is create our Next.js application. So I'm going to do that by typing npx create next app. Okay. I'm going to say at latest to install the latest version of Next.js. Now I'm already in the directory I want to put it in. So I'm just going to click the, put the period there. So no. Okay. And that's going to install pretty quickly here. Now, guys, this is a perfect project to put on your portfolio website and showcase this to potential employers. Okay, a lot of you are asking, what should I put on my portfolio? You guys, this is a good project to showcase. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and start up npm run dev. It's going to start our development server for Next.js. Yours is going to be on 3000. Mine's starting on 3001 because I'm showing you guys the demo here. So this should be what you see here. This is our Next.js create next app. This is what you should see. Okay. So what I want to do first, you guys, let's go ahead and stop this thing here and let's go ahead and install Tailwind CSS. Okay. So let's go to tailwindcss.com. Okay. Go ahead and click get started. And we're going to click on the framework guides. Okay. So Next.js should be at the very top. So go ahead and click that. So first few things here, it wants us to create our next app, which we just did that. So let's move on to step 2. Let's just go ahead and copy this in here to install Tailwind. Okay. So let's just go ahead and paste that in there. Great. Now this next step, we're going to copy over this npx tailwind css init, and that's going to create this file off to the left here, your tailwind.config file. Okay. And next, what it wants to do is basically just replace this, what's highlighted, this content here. So I'm just going to select that there and paste that over there. Perfect. I'm going to save that. It gets nice and formatted. Then our final step here, almost final step, is to copy this over into our globals.css file. Okay. So let's go into our styles. We can actually delete this home.modules. Okay. We don't need that. Let's just go ahead and remove that. Then our globals.css, we're just going to replace all of that with our Tailwind base, Tailwind components, and our utilities. These are all of the directives for Tailwind. Go ahead and close that. You can close that tailwind.config file. And you guys, that's it. That's all we need to do to install Tailwind CSS. Okay, so let's go ahead and run our server here, npm run dev. Okay, now we're going to see some errors. Okay, we're going to see some errors because we just deleted some things and it's looking for stuff that we just deleted. Okay, so our index.js, let's go ahead and see, and we're going to need our pages, and then also we're going to use our public here in a minute. In our index.js, let's just go ahead and we'll leave the main, leave the head, leave the main. Let's just go ahead and delete everything else. Where we go. There we go. We'll just go ahead and delete all of that there. Go ahead and save that. Perfect. Okay. And we'll remove that. Just leave it as empty for now. And we can delete this enter, and then we get rid of those two, the enter and the styles. And okay. Yeah, that should be good right there. Okay. So what I want to do first is let's create our our header here. Okay, this is our header. This is our sidebar. These are gonna be our top components there. So let's do our header. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create another folder here called components. Okay, now inside of our components folder, I'm gonna create we'll say header.jsx. Okay, so RAFCE is going to generate our functional component for our header. Now let's go ahead and import this inside of our our index.js. Okay, so I'm going to say import header from, and then we'll say .components. Spell that so we can go outside of our current directory. Then we're looking for our header, and we'll put that in here inside of our main here, just like so. So now we should actually see it off to the right, and there it is. Perfect. Okay. So for our main, let's go ahead and give some styling here to our main. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is BG gray, and this is Tailwind right here, you guys. We're saying a background of gray 100, and it goes up from 100, I think, to 800 or 900. The higher you go, the darker it gets. So as you can see, it's over here. There it is, header, perfect. So next I want this to say a minimum height of screen, which is 100, minimum height of 100 viewport heights. And basically what we're styling is everything you see here that's not in our sidebar there. Okay, so that's perfect. That's what we want right there, you guys. That is perfect. So we have our header. Now let's go in here and actually add some stuff. So in here, we're gonna have two H2s. We'll have a dashboard, okay? And then let's just copy that down. And this one's gonna say, we'll say, welcome back, client. There we go. See what we're doing there? Perfect. So let's just style this. We're gonna give some more Tailwind classes in here. I want this to say, I want it to display as flex, and we'll say justify between, which is saying space between. Then we'll say px 4, and then a padding on the top of 4, which Tailwind goes in multiples of 4. So by saying 4, that's actually one rem, as you can see there when we hover. There you have it, you guys. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and we can go ahead and just close that header, okay? So next one I want to add in, let's do our sidebar, okay? And we're using React icons for the icons you see there. And then you see a little profile image at the bottom, okay? So let's go ahead and, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and install React icons. So let's just type in, oh, we're gonna go there later. We'll say React icons. Go ahead and click that there. Let's stop our development server. And I'm just gonna copy this over here. What this is gonna do is just install our React icons package so we can have access to all of these icons, okay? So we just installed that. We'll say npm run dev. Let's start our server back up, okay? So next I'm gonna create another component. This is gonna be our sidebar component. So I'm gonna say sidebar.jsx. RAFCE is gonna generate our functional component in here, okay? Now, a few things we wanna do here. So we're actually gonna wrap our app.js. So let's go ahead and pull that open here. We're actually going to wrap our app.js with our sidebar component, okay? Then everything else that's inside of our sidebar are actually going to be children of the sidebar, okay? So what we're going to do here is actually, right now, we're just returning this component, but we're going to return multiple components here. And if you do that, you need to actually use the parentheses here. So we're going to say sidebar and sidebar, just like that, okay? But let's just copy this and place it right there. Then of course we need to import it here. So we'll say import sidebar from components / sidebar. So go ahead and click save. That's look good there. Okay, so we have our sidebar. There you go. Perfect. Now we need to add a few things here, okay? Because it's not displaying properly, and that's okay. So let's go into our sidebar here. And what we're going to take in here, take in some children. There we go. And for our sidebar, we're going to style this a few different ways here. We're going to have two main divs. Okay, so we have our sidebar. I'm going to put this sidebar down here. Now I'm going to create another element here. This is main, and this is where our children. So now we should see, there we have it, the rest of our application. So our sidebar is displaying properly. However, we need to add some styling to it because we only want it to display on the left side of the screen. So let's go ahead and we can get rid of that there. And what we're going to say, let's go ahead and style this thing out. So this is actually going to be displayed as flex. So we're going to have two divs here, class name flex. Okay, there we go. So we're going to have one main div over here. Okay, and everything is going to be inside. These are our two divs that are displaying as flex. Okay, so this one over here, let me give this a class name there, and I'm going to say fixed. I'm going to say width -20. If we hover over that, it's going to be 80 pixels. There we go. And then we'll say, let's say h screen. There we go. Perfect. So height of 100 viewport heights. Say p-4 for some padding. bg of white. We'll say border right. Okay, and I'm going to use some brackets there so we can use a custom values and Tailwind flex column. There we go. And we'll say justify center. Or sorry, I'm going to say justify between. Okay, perfect. That's what we want right there. So there we have it, you guys. Now for our main, we're gonna actually have to give our main some styling here because right now it just looks kind of funky. We actually want it to display the full width of the screen. So let's give this a class name here. And I'm going to say margin left of 20. I'm going to say width full. Okay. So that's looking pretty good so far, you guys. Awesome. So next, let's go over here. I hate it when it breaks everything up like that. I don't like that. There we go. Okay. So inside of this div, so we're going to have basically, so this is our sidebar right here, and the main is this part. So for this div, inside this div, we're going to have basically two more divs. We're going to have this top little div here, then our bottom div here with our profile image. So let's go ahead and we'll say div, and I'm going to say class name here. This is going to be flex column items center. Okay. And now inside here, we're going to have a link here. So link href, and we're going to need to import this. So we're going to import link from next-link. And let's go ahead and copy this down because we're going to import also an image as well. So we'll say image, just like that. It's a Next.js feature that we're going to be using. Okay. All right, perfect. That's what we want right there, you guys. Now, so for our link, I'm going to go ahead and save that so it gets formatted. Inside of our link, okay, I'm going to have a div, and this is going to be our, right there, kind of like that top icon, kind of home button, I guess, okay? So what we're going to say in here, I'm going to have a div, and this is just going to go to our home page, okay? So we're going to have a div, and then we're going to have our RX, this is our React icon, sketch, logo, just like that. And we need to actually import that. So I'm just going to copy that right there. And we'll import from react-icons/rx. Okay. So now we should actually see our icon. There it is. Perfect. And I'm going to give this a size property of 20. There you go. Just a little bit bigger. Now for this div, we want this to be purple. I think it was, right? Yep. Purple. So let's give this a class name here. And we're going to say is BG purple. And there you go. Yeah, it goes up to 900. So 50 to 900. I'm going to use 800. There you go. Text white. It's going to make everything in there white. Perfect. There you go. Now I want to say P-3. I'm going to say rounded, large, inline block. That is perfect. That's what we want right there, you guys. Looks good. Now, next we're going to want to add probably a little span underneath. We'll put this underneath the link here. So I'm going to give it a span here. And we'll say class name. I'm going to say border bottom. I'm going to use our brackets again. So I want it to be a pretty thin line, 1 pixel. And then we'll say, let's see here, border gray 200, width full P2. All right, looks good there. So underneath this span, we're staying within this div here. Underneath this span, what we're going to create is basically some more links, and I'm just going to copy that for now, paste that in there. But instead of purple, let's change this to gray 100. There we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to add a hover effect as well. Hover, and then we'll say gray, BG gray 200 maybe. We'll say, there you go. Perfect. That's good right there. Perfect. Gray 200. Text white. Everything else is looking good there. Let's get with that text white. I'm going to say cursor pointer. And give it a little margin on the y-axis of 4 so it kind of bumps it down. Whoops. There we go. All right, perfect. Now, everything else looks good. However, I want to change that logo. We're going to use RX dashboard. So let's go ahead and import that, RX dashboard. Oops. There you go. This is lowercase. All right, looks good right there. Awesome, you guys. So next, let's just go ahead and copy this down a couple more times. So we're going to have our dashboard, we're going to have our little person there, our shopping bag, and our settings. So next, what we're going to use is RX dashboard. We're going to have an RX person, just like that. And then we'll have, this one's going to be HI outline shopping bag. And then the bottom one is going to be FI settings. Okay. So let's go and import those so we can get rid of those errors. So we're going to say import FI settings from react-icon/FI. And then what else? RX person's not defined. So we'll say RX person. And then the HI outline shopping bag. I'll just copy that over. So let's import. And you guys, these have to be on, see, we can import them on the same line if it's that same, from that little same library. See, this one's FI, that one's RX. This one is HI, so we have to do that on a separate line from react-icons, there we go, /HI. Okay. There you go. Perfect. So look at that, you guys. That's perfect right there. Now, let's go ahead and add in some links here. So this is the dashboard. That's perfect. We're going to leave that to the homepage. So for this one, for the person, we'll link this to customers. Now, we haven't actually set up any routes yet, so nothing's going to happen for now. And we'll say person for the shopping bag. Or sorry, we'll say orders. All right, you guys, that looks good. So that is it for our sidebar. Quick little water break there. That's it for our sidebar. Now, next, what we probably want to do is, let's do these top cards here at the top. So, and this is going to be, we're using the grid for this. We're going to use 5 columns. So each one's going to take up 2, or the first 2 are going to take up 2 columns. This is just going to take up 1. Then on anything below that, this breakpoint, they're just going to take up just 1 column. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So we'll go ahead and go create our top cards here. And we're going to create this in our components here. Top cards.jsx. Okay, REFCE, get our functional component in here. Now let's add this. Okay, we're going to add this to our index. And we're just going to put this right below our header. Okay, so we'll say top cards, just like so. Let's go ahead and save that. And we need to import this. We'll say top cards. Whoop. Okay. There we have it, you guys. Looks good there. Now let's go ahead and, where's our top cards? Let's close down our sidebar for now. And we can close this app.js. Okay. We'll leave this index.js open for now. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. So for our top cards, okay, for our top cards, let's go ahead and add some stuff in here. So basically it's going to be one parent div there, then a few below there. So for this one, let's give this a class name. Okay, so for a class name, we're going to display this as grid. Anything above that large breakpoint, we're going to say grid columns 5. And then we'll say gap 4. Otherwise, it's just going to be 1 by default. And then we'll say P-4. Okay, so for our divs here, let's go ahead and header, top cards, top cards. So if we're going to have something in here, let's go ahead and do this first one here. Okay. Or you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. So let's give this a class name. Okay. And these are actually both going to be the same here. So we can just copy these down. This one's going to be anything above large. We're going to say column span 2, right? Else just column span 1. We'll say BG white. We want to display this as flex, justify between. So where the contents in there are going to be spread apart. We'll say width, full, border, and then P-4, rounded, large. Okay. That looks good. So let's go ahead and copy that down. And that second one's going to be basically the exact same. Okay. But for this last one, this one on the end, it's going to be pretty similar. However, when we just minus that breakpoint. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this here basically. And we'll say class name, BG white flex. So it should look all the same there. And then when we open this thing up, there you go. Perfect. That looks good. Looking good. All right, now let's add some contents inside here. I'm going to shrink that down. So for this top one, you know what? I'm just going to type on multiple lines here. So I'm just holding down the option button. That way, just a little time saver. I can type on multiple lines, and then because a majority of this is going to be the same, then we can come back and edit what we need to. So what I'm going to say in here, we're going to have a div, okay? And for this div, we're going to have a class name. And this class name is going to be flex, and we'll say flex column. And with full, then I'm going to say PB4, just like so. Okay, perfect. Now, go down one. Inside of these, we're going to have a P tag. We're going to have two P tags, actually. And then, so we're going to have, we'll say, and again, I'll come back and change this in a minute. This first one is going to be 846, just like so. And then we'll say daily revenue, just like that. Perfect. Now, for this P tag, let's give this a class name. This first P tag, we'll say class name, and we'll say text 2XL, so it's a little bit bigger. There we go. Let's say font bold. Looks good. And then let's go down to the second P tag here. And for this one, we're going to say class name. We'll say text gray 600. All right, looking good there. Now let's add a, let's see, underneath this div here, we're going to add a P tag, and inside here, we're going to have a span, and we'll just say plus 18%. There we go. And let's go ahead and style this as well. Class name. For this one, I'm going to say BG green 200, flex, justify, center, items, center, padding 2, then rounded, large. Perfect. And for this span, I'm going to say text, green, 700, then text, LG for large. Okay. Now, I'm just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to paste one right there, and we'll paste one right there. Perfect. So that is what we want right there. You guys look good. All right, but let's change out these values because we don't want the daily revenue. We're going to have, let's change this one to, we'll say 143, add like a 7 in there. Then instead of daily revenue, we'll say year to date revenue. And then down here, we'll just say, maybe this can be the amount of customers. We'll say we have 11 for, okay. We'll say, okay, instead of 18%, we'll say this one's up 17%, and then this one can be up 11. All right, you guys. So let's open this up. Looking good so far, you guys. Smash the like button if you feel like you're getting some value out of this. I'd appreciate it. You guys, we are done with the sidebar. We're done with that top bar. Next one I want to do is let's go ahead and create our bar chart component using Chart.js and also our recent orders component off to the side. Okay, so let's just shrink that down. We can close that. Okay, so next what we want to do, let's go ahead and we're going to create our bar chart and also our recent orders components. So let's go in here for components. We'll say BarChart.js, and then let's say RFCE there. And then let's do another one real quick. We'll say recent orders.jsx, RFCE, get our functional component. Perfect. So next, let's go into our index. Okay, so we're going to stay inside our index here, inside of our main. Now we're going to create a div because this div is going to be basically just right below our dashboard here. Okay, so these two here. So still going to be within our main. Okay, and then we're going to create a div right here, and inside here we're going to have our bar chart, and then we'll have a recent orders. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and we probably need to import those. Okay, so let's just copy that down. This one's going to be bar chart, just like so. Cool. Copy that. We'll paste that in there. Then this one is going to be recent orders. Cool. Let's paste that in there. All right. Perfect. There we go, you guys. Looking good. All right. So next, what we want to do is next, what we can do, let's go ahead and style this div here. So I'm going to give this a class name. We're going to display this as grid. Okay, so we're going to say P4 for some padding. Let's say grid. Okay, there we go. I'm going to say anything above medium, we're going to say grid columns 3, else just grid columns of 1, and we'll give it a gap of 4. Perfect. So let's open this up. There you have it. So now we can go in here and we'll add some span to our bar chart, and then also to the recent orders as well. So let's do our bar chart first. Okay. So for our bar chart, we're using Chart.js, and it flashed over here on the screen. See Chart.js 2. This is it right here. React Chart.js 2. Okay. So we're going to be using npm. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and just install this React component. Okay. This component library. So go ahead and copy that. Let's stop our server real quick. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. npm install -- save Chart.js and React Chart.js 2. Okay. npm run dev to get our development server back up here. Okay. So for our bar chart, we're going to need several things here. Okay. So let's just go ahead and copy this one here. We're going to import that there. So let's go ahead and save. So chart as Chart.js, we're going to need, you know what? We're not going to use that. Let's get rid of that. Let's go find, we should have a bar chart here. So components, yeah, there it is. Bar chart, perfect. Okay, so this is where we can basically import a lot of things that we're going to use. We're going to use this one. So let's import that, import the bar. Now down here, we can actually import all the things that we're going to need here. See, let's just go ahead and shrink that down. So what we're going to need, let's import. So we're going to need a few things here. Chart as Chart.js, just like that. Then we're going to need category scale. We're going to need linear scale. We're going to need a bar element. Then we're going to need a title, a tooltip. Then we're going to need a legend there. Okay, so, and this is going to be from Chart.js. Okay, so go ahead and save that. Okay, perfect. That's what we need there. Now we need to import the bar. We got that one. Perfect. Okay, so that looks good for now. Have all these imported. So next, what we need to do, what we're going to say is Chart.js.register. Okay, and then what we're going to have is category, basically everything we just imported. Category scale, the linear scale. Tell you what, there we go. We'll just copy this over. All right. So make sure we import those 6 things there, or register those 6 things. Perfect. Linear is not defined. Do we leave that one out? Okay, no. Okay, we're good. We are good. All right. So we're going to have some state in here. We're going to have the use effect hook to basically load our bar component whenever our page loads. So let's go ahead and import the use state and also the use effect hooks here in React. Now, inside of our bar chart here, let's go ahead and let's have a div here. And we'll go ahead and save this one. We can just leave this one as a fragment here. Now inside here, we're going to have our bar, okay, just like so. And that's fine. Can't read properties of labels. That's fine here. Let's go ahead and add I'm going to give this a class name. I'm going to say width, full, anything above medium. I'm going to say column, span 2, okay. Display this as relative. Anything above the large breakpoint, we're going to say height of 70 viewport heights using our brackets in here, okay, for custom values. Then we'll say 50 viewport heights there, margin of auto, and then we'll say P-4 for some padding. Then we'll say border, and then rounded, large, and BG white, okay. So let's go ahead and save that. Perfect. That's what we want right there. Now, what we need to do, let's go ahead and import some stuff for our Chart.js, okay. Oh, right. So legend, perfect. So what we need to do here, let's go ahead and add this this is going to go inside of our bar chart component. So we're going to have a const here. Whoops, not there. This is going to be our state here. So we're going to say chart data set chart data, like so. And this is going to be equal to use state, okay? And then we're going to have just an object here of data sets, and we'll just set this equal to an empty array, just like that, okay? So let's give it a little space there. So next, we'll make sure. So next, what we want to add in is our chart options. We are going to pass through some options for our bar chart here. So we can go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and pass this in here before I forget. I'll say data equal to chart data, and then we'll say options equal to chart options. And let's go ahead and create our chart options right now. Okay, so const, and we'll say chart options and set chart options. Okay, and this is going to be equal to use state, and we'll just leave an empty object for now. Okay. So there we have our bar charts, not displaying yet, but as you can see, that's where it's going to go there. Shrink that down. So we're going to add in some data, and we're just using some static data for our chart, okay? We're not actually pulling this data from anywhere. We're just going to code it in, and we're going to do that right now. So we're going to put this in just below our last state here, and basically we're going to wrap this in a use effect. So whenever our page loads, or our component loads rather, our use effect is going to run, okay? So we'll say use effect, like so, and then we're going to have a, there we go, we'll add our dependency array. So it only runs once. Make sure you add your dependency array, otherwise you'll get some errors in here. So what we need to do is set our chart data here, and I'm just going to add in the data that we're going to be setting here. So we're going to have labels. It's going to be an array here, and then we're going to have a data sets as well. And inside here, I'm going to go ahead and paste this in, and feel free, you guys, I'm going to put a link to the GitHub. Again, like I said, I'm going to put a link to the GitHub down in the description below. So feel free, if you want to copy some of this stuff right here, don't copy everything, you guys. You're not going to learn by just copying it. You need to actually type it out. But some of this stuff here, feel free to just copy that over, just to save a little bit of time. Okay. So for our labels, these are going to be just the that right there. And look at that, it's already pasted in there, pretty good there. So whenever we hover, you can see the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, looking good there. So next, we need to set our chart options. Okay, so we're going to set this, and this is going inside of our use effect. So for our chart options are going to basically allow this thing to be responsive and make sure it displays right. Okay, so that's looking good so far, but let's add in these options. And again, this is going to be inside of our use effect. Okay, so we're going to add this in just below our chart data. Okay, so we're going to say this is our set chart data. Next, we're going to do our set chart options. So we're going to say set chart options, and inside here, what we're going to have is, scroll that down some, plugins. Okay, then we're going to have our legend. Now for our legend, we're going to have position, set that position to top, just like so. Then we're going to have, just under legend, we're going to have a title. Now for our title, we're going to display true, and then we'll say text, we're going to say daily revenue. For our title, there we go. And then next, what we want to have is, let's see here. Next, we'll have, after our title, we're going to have maintain aspect ratio, just like that. We're going to set that to false. And then we'll have responsive set to true. Okay. So let's go ahead and give that a save. Looks like, let's see, plugins, did I mess something up here? Bar chart, failed to compile our title. There we go. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. And we don't have anything in our recent orders down there, so let's just open this up. Look at that, you guys. Looking good so far. All right, so let's add in our recent orders. Okay, so that's all we need to do for our bar chart, you guys. So that looks good right there. Awesome. Good work, you guys. Everything is looking good. Now, for the data, okay, so we're not connecting to a data. So in production, of course, you use Axios or some sort of library to make a API call. So we're actually going to have all of our data inside here locally. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create another folder here, okay, by the name of data. And then inside our data folder, I'm going to have a data.js, okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to import some data in here. I'm just going to copy it over. Again, feel free to copy this part from from my GitHub. Don't copy everything, you guys. You're not going to learn everything like that. So we'll say export const data. Okay. Now this is just going to be This is just going to be an array of objects. Okay. So just to go over this, I don't want to spend too much time here, but basically we have an array of objects. We have about 10 objects. Each object has an ID, a name by the first and last. Then we have a total, the status, if it's on hold, if it's processing, if it's shipped. And then we have a method, like a payment method, PayPal, Visa, whatever. Then a date. And for the date, I just said, 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, and whatnot. Okay. So that's all we need to do there. Let's go ahead and close that bar chart. And we're going to go into our recent orders here. Okay. So for our recent orders, I'm going to open this up and leave it right there so we can just kind of see as we're coding this out. Okay. So for our recent orders, let's go ahead and, so we need to actually import our data here. So I'm going to import, we'll say data from, we're looking for data/data.js. Okay. That looks good there. Now we're going to use some icons here as well. Okay. So we're going to use that little shopping bag there. So let's go ahead and import that as well. We'll say import FA shopping bag, I believe, from react-icons/FA. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now let's go ahead and try and give this some room here. So let's go ahead and give this a H1. I'm going to say recent orders. And I'm going to go ahead and style this thing, class name. What I'm going to say here is width, full, column span 1, just position relative, anything above large. Basically, we're going to do the same thing that we did on this. So anything above large, we want the height to be 70 viewport heights, which we're going to add in as just a value like that. So viewport heights, then else we're going to say height of 50 viewport heights. There we go. Then we'll say margin auto, padding of 4, which is 1 rem. We'll say a border there, and then rounded dash large. Perfect. That's looking good right there. BG white, and then we want it to be able to flow or scroll. Sorry. So we'll say overflow scroll. Okay. Perfect. Now we can't see it scrolling yet because we don't have anything in there, but as you can see, we have a scrolling capability. All right. So next, so we have our recent orders in there. So next we're going to have unordered list here. And here we're going to map through our data. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have, we'll say data, because we imported this from data, right? So we're going to say data.map. Okay. And we'll say, map it through as data. We need an ID. And then we'll say, use some parentheses there so we can just kind of map out elements on the screen. We're going to map through, each one's going to be a list item. So just create a little list item like that. And let's just give this a key. React likes to give keys, key of ID, just like that. And let's give this a class name while we're at it here. So I'm going to say BG gray 50. On hover, I'm going to say BG gray 100, rounded large, okay, MY3, give a little margin in between there, padding of 2, flex, item center, then cursor pointer. Okay, so each list item, as you can see, there's our list items in there, and it's going to, each list item, we're mapping through the exact amount of objects inside of our data array there. So I hope that makes sense. So inside of our list item, okay, each one, we're going to have basically a div with a shopping bag here. So we'll say FA shopping bag. And let's go ahead and give this a class name, BG purple 800. Perfect. Sorry, not BG. This needs to be text. There we go. That looks good there. Okay, perfect, guys. So now let's go ahead and give this div a class name. So we want this to be basically a purple as well. It'll probably be 100 or 200. It's going to be our little icon container, I guess you would say. So next we'll say BG purple 100, and there you go. Rounded large. We'll say P3. All right, there you go. Everything's scrollable. Perfect. So it's actually mapping through all of our data right now. We're not displaying any information on the screen there, but we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so just below this little icon container, still inside of our list item, what I'm going to say here is, falling out of the screen here. Sorry about that, you guys. So what I'm going to say just below this, but still inside of our list item, what I'm going to say here is we're going to need to create another div here. And we'll say this is going to be a p tag here. This is going to be our order total. So I'm going to give this little $sign there. And what we're going to say is, so we're mapping through our order. So I'm going to say order.total. And we're getting that total, you guys, from right here. So now you can see we're getting some information on the screen. Then the next, what we're going to grab is the name. So we're going to say order.name.first, and it's going to grab the name. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So we're creating another p tag just below this one. And what we say is order.name.first. There you have it. That looks good there. So next, let's go ahead and create another p tag, still within the list item. And this one's going to be the date. So we'll say order.date, of course, just to be redundant here. There it is. All right. So let's style this thing. So this is going to be the div that surrounds our text here, our order total and the first name. We're going to just say padding on the left of 4. There we go. Now for the p tags, I'm going to say text, class name, text gray 800. Then we'll say font bold. There we go. And for this one, give it a class name. This one's going to say text gray 400, text small. There we go. Looking good. Now let's style this p tag over here, class name. And we're going to say, this is going to be, we're going to have some media queries here. So anything above large, we're going to say display flex. Else medium's going to be hidden. That's going to be absolute right 6. Right 6. Then we'll say, we'll shrink it down some, text small. Look at that, you guys. That was looking good so far. Let's make sure it is responsive as we shrink it down. So look, it's hidden. And then as we get above our large breakpoint, it's going to be displayed as flex. Look at that. And feel free to add your own styling. If you don't like the way it looks, feel free to change all of that up as well. Okay, so look at that. You guys smash the like button if you feel like you're getting some value out of this. I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with me so far. So next we have our dashboard, but we need some more routes. Okay, we need I guess a customers there. And then we also need an orders tab route as well. Okay, so let's go back to our main page there. Don't worry about that. So next, let's go ahead and create these routes. So what we're going to do next, let's go into our pages here. Okay, we can just close that. So for our pages, let's create a new page, and we're going to need a customers.jsx. Okay, RAFCE, get our customers. Then let's go ahead while we're at it here, and we'll create a new file of we'll say orders.jsx. Okay, so RAFCE, get our functional component there. So let's see, did we add in, where's our sidebar? I think we did. So if we go ahead and click customers, there we have it. So, and this is the beauty of Next.js, you guys. Since we created these components in our pages folder that automatically creates a route. That's why we don't have to mess with React Router DOM or anything like that. So customers, and remember, we already set this in our sidebar to the correct route. And we did that at the beginning. So this should be orders. That's how awesome Next.js, you guys, is. So fast, so fast. So let's go ahead and we'll close that recent orders. We can go ahead and I think we close this index.js for now. I'm going to leave that data open because I'm going to come back and reference that. So let's go into let's go do our customers first. Okay. So for our customers, having some media queries, that's what we're going to do. Again, we're just going to map through those as well. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. So let's go into our customers here. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. So for our customers, we're going to be using some React icons. Let's go ahead and import these. And again, we're importing BS person fill and BS 3.vertical. Whoops, I'm going to spell vertical from React icons. And you guys, again, since this is the same icon package, they can be imported on the same line. Okay. So, and then we're going to want to get access to our data that we're going to map through our data here as well. So we have to import that again. So we'll say import data. It's going to be from, that's going to be data. And then again, it's our data.js file. Okay. Okay. So look at what we're doing here. Perfect. So, okay. So what we're going to do here, let's go ahead and write out some JSX here. So we're going to have a div here, and then we're going to have an H2 that says customers. Whoops. And we'll have another H2 that says, I didn't add in anything dynamic. So this is going to be basically that top bar again here. So for this H2, we'll say, or for this div here, we'll say class name. Damn it. We'll say flex, justify, between, and then P-4 for some padding. Okay. Perfect. That looks good. Let's give some class, some styles to this outer div here. We'll say BG gray 100. Then again, minimum height of screen. So 100 viewport height. So there we go. We have that gray background. I think that looks pretty nice there. So next, let's go here below this div. Okay. We're going to create another div and let's just give this some padding. Let's say P-4 so we get a little padding on this div here. Now, we're going to create basically this little top, I guess you call it like a legend, this top bar, the labels, I guess is what I'm trying to say, the labels, and then we'll map through everything. Okay. So for the labels here, I'm going to create a div here. And I'm going to say class name. This is going to be width, full, margin, auto. Okay. And then what we're going to say here is padding. We need some padding. P-4. We'll say border, rounded, large. Okay. And then we'll say BG white. And then we'll say overflow Y to auto. Okay. Looks good there. All right, you guys. So next, what we want to add is, let's do our actual label in there. So we'll say div, and we'll have our span. This one's going to be a name, and let's just copy this down. So we're going to have a name, we're going to have an email, we're going to have a last order, we're going to have a method. There we go. And okay. Well, I want to stay above this breakpoint. I want to stay above this breakpoint where I added it. There we go. That's where I want to stay, just to see here. So next, what I want to say, I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit. Oh, we'll leave it at there. So next, what we're going to say here, sorry about that, you guys. Let's give this a class name, and we'll say margin Y on the Y-axis of 3, padding of 2. We're going to display as grid. Actually, we're going to make it this medium breakpoint. Anything above medium breakpoint, we're going to say grid columns 4. There we go. And then we'll say, forgot to display this as grid. Grid columns 4. Else we'll say anything above small, we can say grid columns 3. And else we'll just say grid columns 2 on basically the smallest of width there. items center, justify between, and then we'll say cursor pointer. Okay. So we have that cursor pointer. Everything looks good. Looking good. All right. So next, let's go ahead and add some stuff here. So for our name, we're not going to add anything there. For our email, so on smaller devices, basically on the smallest device, we're only going to display the name in the email. Okay. Then we're going to display name, email, and method, and then basically the last order as well. Okay. So I'm going to leave that right there. So for our email, let's add some class name in there. Now I'm going to say anything above small, we'll say text left. Okay. Else we'll just say text right. Perfect. Now for the last order, I'm going to say class name. We want this to be hidden. Then anything above the medium breakpoint, just display grid. And you guys, we'll copy that, display that, or put that as well. So for the method, but we'll change this to small. Okay. So let's have a look here. Name, email, then we're gonna hit the method, and then last order as we get up in size. Okay. Perfect. So next, what we want to do is actually map through all of our data. Okay. So we're going to do that just below here. We're going to have an unordered list. And again, we're going to map through all of our list items. So what we're going to do here, we'll say, open up some curly brackets. We'll say data.map. Okay. And then we're going to map through, we'll just say order, and then we'll give an ID. And then we'll say, use a parentheses there since we're basically rendering out data onto the screen. And what we're going to render out is a list item. And in our list item, we're going to give this a key. So we'll say key equal to ID, just like that. And let's go ahead and give this a class name as well. And for the class name, we're going to say BG gray 50. Then we hover, we're going to say BG gray 100, rounded, large, margin on the Y of 3, padding 2, grid. Anything above medium, we'll say grid columns 4. Anything above small, we'll say grid columns -3. Else just grid columns 2. And say items center, justify between, then cursor pointer. So you can see we're actually mapping through. We have that little hover effect on all of our data. Now we haven't displayed any data on the screen, but let's do that right now. So just below or contained within our list item, what we're going to want to add here is, let's create a div, and then we're going to have another div here, and this is going to be our icon. So we're going to say BS person fill, and let's go ahead and give this a class name. We'll say text purple 800, and this div here is just the icon container, so let's give that a class name. I'm going to make that purple as well, so we'll say BG purple 100. Perfect. All right, and then we'll say P-3, give it some padding, and then rounded large. Okay, so it looks kind of funky though. Let's give this a class here to fix that, and we'll say flex items center. All right, look at that, looks good. So let's actually access some of the data inside of our data.js. And what we're going to be accessing is we're going to be accessing a lot. First name, the email, the last order, and the method. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And again, this is our customers. Okay. So just below this BS person fill div, we're going to have a p tag, and this is going to be our order.name.first. Okay. Then let's give plus a little space there. And I can actually leave that there. Whoops. There we go. And this is going to be order.name.last. Uh-oh. What I need some backticks in there. Order. There it goes. Using refresh. All right. That looks good. Let's add some class to this. p tag, and I'm going to say padding left of 4. All right, that looks good there. Perfect. So just below that, we're going to add in another p tag, and this is going to be our email. So let's just say, I'm going to go ahead and give this a class name. So for our email, we'll say text gray 600. Anything above small, we'll say text left, and we'll just say text right. Okay. Whoops. Now in here, what we're going to say is order.name.first. We don't have an email address stored in here. So I'm just say we'll grab their first name, and then we can just say after this, everyone's going to have an email at Gmail. Just like that. That works, right? Okay, perfect. So that's good for our p tag there. Now next, let's do our date, the order date. And it's not actually a real date. It's just going to be basically we have it stored as, an hour ago, 15 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago. And that'll suffice there. So let's give this a class name. Again, this is our date here. And what we're going to say is hidden. Then anything above medium will display as flex. Okay. And let's throw in here order.date. Are we above our breakpoint? There we go. There's our breakpoint right there. That's looking good right there, you guys. Perfect. So that's good for our date there. Now let's do we'll add another div here, and this is going to be our method. So date, we'll say order.method. There we go. Then we'll use BS 3 dots vertical to have kind of like, I guess, what you would assume a clickable icon. So let's give this a class name displayed as flex. Anything above small, we'll say flex. Otherwise, hidden, justify, between, items, center. There we go. So if we shrink it down, small, looks good. Let's open this thing up. We're hitting our media queries. Look at that. That looks good, you guys. Perfect. Smash the like button if you feel like you're getting some value out of this thing. And let's finish this thing up with our orders tab next. Okay, our orders route. So let's go ahead and close our customers there. And let's go to our orders. So for our orders, it's going to be pretty similar. We're going to need to import some icons. We're going to need to import our data. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to import our Let's do our icons first. So we're going to have FA shopping bag from React-icons/FA. Then we're going to also import BS 3 dots vertical again from React-icons/BS. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And let's get our data here. So we'll import data from our data.js file. Okay. All right. So orders. So this is what we're going to have for our orders. A little shopping bag there. Then a status, whether or not it's on hold, processing, or completed. Then the method there. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So for this here, again, we're going to have to wrap this in. There we go. We have to wrap that like so. Whoops. Put that on the outside. There we go. So inside here, okay, that's going to bug me. Let's fix that. Okay, so for this div here, we're going to have another div, and then we're going to have an H2. This says orders. Then again, whoops, we're going to say welcome back. Client. Okay, so this one's going to be class, damn it, class name, flex, then justify between. There we go. Then px 4, then padding on the top of 4. Okay. Now let's go ahead and give this outer one a class name as well. bg gray 100 min height screen. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so orders looks good. Welcome back. That looks good. So next, get another a div here. And we're going to give this some padding. So class name, we'll say just padding 4. Now in here, we're going to do this whole table again here. So, and this table is slightly different. So I'm just going to write it over from scratch here. So it's not going to be too long. So we'll say div, and this one's going to give a class name. It's going to be width of full margin auto. Okay. We'll say P-4 for the padding, border rounded large here. Okay. BG white, starting to see it there. BG white, overflow Y auto. Okay. Perfect. That looks good. I'm just going to shrink that down a little bit. Looks good there. Perfect. Now for this, inside of this div here, let's create another div. And for this class here, say class name. This one's going to be margin Y of 3. And then we'll say P-2. We'll display grid. Anything above the medium breakpoint, we say grid columns 4. Then we'll say anything of small, we'll say grid columns 2. Or sorry, 3. And then we'll just say else grid columns 2. Okay. And then let's say item center, then justify between, and then cursor pointer. Perfect. So now we have our padding in there. And then next thing, what we want to do is let's add in our top little area there. So we're going to have a span that says order. Let's just copy this down a few times. So we're going to have our order, then we're going to have our status, and then we're going to have our last order, and then we'll say method. Okay. So no styling for that first span. The second span, we're going to class name here, and we're going to say anything about small, we'll say text. Whoops, this needs to be a colon, text dash left, else we'll say text right. There we go. Perfect. Now this class name here, for this we're going to say hidden, anything above medium, display grid, and we'll just copy that down. Perfect. And let's just change this one to small. There we have it, you guys. Looking good. So next, that's kind of like our span. Again, that's like our legend there. So let's go below this div, and we're actually going to map through all of our data on there and render it out on the screen. So let's say data.map, and we'll say order, we give it an ID, and then we'll say, again, we're using some parentheses there so we can actually render out some elements onto the screen. And we're going to render out a list item with inside our list item. Let's say, give this a key. So we're going to give this a key of ID, and we'll give this a class name. And for the class name, we're going to say BG gray 100, or sorry, for the 50. Then anything above, we'll say a hover. We'll say BG gray 100. Rounded large, my of 3, so margin on the y-axis 3, padding of 2. Then we'll display this as grid. Anything above medium, grid columns 4. Anything above small, we'll say grid columns 3. Else grid columns 2. Items center and justify between, and cursor pointer. Guys, let me know if this is your first time using Tailwind. Let me know down in the comments if you like Tailwind, if you think it's fast, if you think it's easy to pick up, if you're saving time. I love it. The first time I used it, I loved it. So I love writing Tailwind. It's so much easier in my opinion. And I think it helps you like have a better understanding of CSS after you kind of like do both, you know, especially if you're first starting out. So I definitely wouldn't recommend if you're brand new to CSS, I'd recommend learning that first, of course, but let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. So next we're going to create a div here, and I'm going to give this a class name of flex here, and then we're going to create another div, and this is going to be our little icon wrapper, I guess you'd say, and then we're going to have an FA shopping bag. Give this a class name. We'll say text, purple. Let's go down here for that 800. Now for our wrapper here, give this a class name. This is going to be, let's see, BG, purple 100, padding of 3. Let's say rounded large. Looks good there, you guys. That looks good. So next, underneath, inside of this flex div here, but underneath our icon wrapper, create another div here, and we're going to give this, let's see, we'll say p tag. This is going to be our order total. Get a little dollar sign. What? There we go. Dollar sign there. And then what we're going to say is order.total. So if we see, this is our total there. Perfect. And then what we can just say to kind of avoid any bugs, we'll say to locale string, just like that. This will, if it's ever, you ever have any, if it's for some reason, whenever you're making like API calls from like a longer number, this is basically can format it correctly there. Okay. So next, let's go ahead and give this some styling. So for this div here, I'm going to give this a class name, and we're just going to say padding left of 4, just to give it a little spacing. And for this p tag, let's give it a class name. We'll say text gray 800 and font bold. All right, looks good there, you guys, look good. So next, underneath this p tag there, add another p tag, and let's add the name, okay? So we'll say order.name.first, okay? There it is. Let's give this a class name. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. Text gray, we'll say 800. Let's do this. That looks good there. Perfect. And then below this div here, we're going to create another div in here, and we're going to have the status and our method. So for our status here, we're going to create a p tag here, and this is going to say, we'll say class name, we'll say text gray 600, and we'll say small, we'll say text left x, just text right. Okay. Now inside this p tag, we're gonna have span, and inside this span, what we're gonna say is the order.status. Now what we want to have here, some are going to have a yellow background, some are have a green, and some are going to have blue. But we're going to have that color based upon whether the order is on hold, if it's processing, or if it's completed. So how do we do that? How do we give it kind of a dynamic backgrounds in CSS based on the value? So we're going to do that right now with our span here. So what we're going to have, let's go ahead and add a class name to our span. And instead of using some quotes like we typically would, we're actually going to write a little bit of JavaScript in here. And what we're going to say is if order.status here equal to processing, which is, if we go over here to our data, if it's equal to, so we only have several values in here. We have a processing, we have on hold, and then we have completed. Okay. So if it's equal to processing, basically we want to give it that green color. So if order.status equal to processing, if that's true, we're going to say BG green 200. Okay. And then we also want to say, we're going to say a padding of 2, and then a rounded of large. Okay. And then we'll say else order.status equal to completed. If completed is true, then what we want to say is, let's see, BG blue 200, and then whoops, BG2, then we'll say padding of 2, then rounded large. And then we'll say else it's just going to be yellow because that's our only other options. So BG yellow 200, padding of 2, and then we'll say rounded large. Okay, so let me go ahead and just to clarify on that, in case it was a little bit confusing, we're adding dynamic values to the class name on our span. So the span is always going to be the same, this order status. Now, like I said, dynamic values on the class name, ternary operator here, if the order status here is equal to processing, okay, if the order status is equal to processing, then we're going to apply these values, the BG green, padding 2, rounded large. Else, if the border status is equal to completed, which is like one of these values here. Then we're going to apply BG blue 200 P2 the padding. Else we're going to have BG yellow 200. So we only have 3 values in here. We know that's on hold, processing, or completed. So that's how we're adding in some dynamic values with Tailwind inside of our React component here. So that's good, you guys. Next, what we want to do after the order status, okay, we still need our date in there. So after that, we're just add this another p tag here. So this one's going to be our order.date, okay? And let's give a class name to this here. So for our date, what we're going to have is hidden, but anything above medium, let's display as flex, okay? And there it is, last order. And let's do our method as well. So we'll go just below this. We're going to have another div here. And inside here, we're going to have order.method. And we'll have a p tag. Or sorry, this isn't going to be p tag. This is going to be our dots. So we'll say BS 3 vertical dots. There we have it. Let's add some styling though. So class name. We're going to display as anything above small. We'll say display flex. There we go. Else just be hidden. And we'll say justify between items center. Let's go ahead and save that. We have a nice hover effect. Let's open this up, you guys, and let's see. I think we might be just about done, you guys. Let's have a look at this here. So have our order, have our status on hold. It's yellow, green if it's processing, blue if it's completed. The last order 15 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago. Again, if you want to do this dynamically, that'd be super cool as well. Then we have our payment method. And if you want to add in some extra functionality to be able to like edit these, that'd be pretty cool. And look at that, you guys, that is looking good. So this is our orders. Let's go check out our customers. So we have our customer name, our email, our last order, our method over here, and then our dashboard. Look at that, you guys. Everything displaying perfectly. Let's just make sure it is mobile responsive. There you go. Look at that. Everything is displaying perfectly. All right, you guys. I think that about wraps up our project, you guys. Smash the like button if you feel like you got some value out of this. I would appreciate it. A lot of time goes into making these videos, so very, very much appreciated. Thank you for following along. Give me a comment down there below if you have any questions. And thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you on the next one.